Hello, everyone. Today, I would like to talk about the application of machine learning techniques and AI on construction context. For that purpose, I chose to use a talk that took place here in Vancouver in 2019. It was part of a conference called Can Beam, where different experts talk about newest innovation in the field of computation and modeling and digitization of the industry. The specific talk that I chose was about talking about the barriers in transforming into the digital world, and four of my good friends were on the panel and discussing these barriers. The analysis that we performed here, they use different machine learning techniques, and they are obviously complicated. What I'm going to do in this video is just to communicate a little bit of the approach, very high level that we took, and then showing you some of the results. Obviously, this is not a thorough analysis that we performed here. The purpose is mainly to communicate the advantages and the abilities and the potentials of this kind of machine learning based analysis for a large amount of data based on spoken language, and then see the capacity of that. So the approach that we took is obviously generally what you need to do is collecting data. And the data collection in this specific case was just to extracting the audio and then putting that audio into a machine learning platform. It's called Otter.ai for transcription purposes. So obviously the outcome of Otter.ai is not a very, very high quality, but the quality is acceptable. There are words that are not being identified properly due to several reasons. It could be the noise, it could be some specific technical words that Otter is not familiar with, and so on. So there is a step for pre-processing there to increase the quality of the outcome, the transcription, and your input data into the machine learning and natural language processing that you are going to perform. So we didn't spend much time on that. We just performed some standard analysis just to catch some arms and fillers and things like that. And the outcome was that we had more than 600 sentences that were spoken at that talk, and those sentences included more than 12,000 words. So taking that and then putting that into the analysis that we have here, so we performed and used machine learning techniques, including natural language processing, word embedding, and post-tagging, and sentiment analysis. What they are exactly, I'm not going to explain in this video. What I'm going to do is focusing on the outcomes and providing some sort of interpretation of what we could learn out of this short analysis that we performed. So the first and obvious analysis that we had was a frequency analysis. That means identifying the most mentioned words or most mentioned nouns. Obviously, there were purged, so words such as me, I, or pronouns and verbs, so they were eliminated. But as you see, so the quality is really high here. So they are very relevant to the topic that the speakers were talking about. So words such as design, project, risk, time, value, model, they are all being highlighted here. So they are showing themselves. So that shows us that the analysis is going in a direction that is reasonable. The second analysis that we performed was to perform a contextual analysis based on word embedding. And that takes all those frequently used words that we identified in the previous step and tries to identify how closely were they used next to each other by the speakers. So in this manner, you can find a contextual connection between these words. I will give you an example. For instance, the word transformation is very important because we were talking about the digital transformation and the barriers. As you see, so that word was used by the speakers in connection with culture, with value, with designers and leadership and things like that. So they are all very reasonable, and they give us also a sense of the intensity of the use or the contextual message that the speakers wanted to communicate. For instance, here what I learned is that the culture was very important in terms of making the digital transformation possible in the industry in general. The other analysis that we performed was to go after the most commonly used patterns or word combinations. And that is also very relevant, and the outcome was actually reasonable. So something like value proposition is important, design computation is important, client understanding is important. So these are the messages that might not in that combination exactly being used by the speakers, but these words were very closely used in the entire conversation. So this is a sort of giving us a sense that the underlying message that they wanted to communicate was more or less about value proposition and identifying that for the digital transformation. The design computation has an important role in that, and so on. Another analysis was the sentiment analysis. Sentiment analysis is important because we were talking about the barriers. So it is important and interesting to identify some sentences with a negative weight to understand, so what are those barriers? We performed that, so words such as difficult, risk, questioning something being wrong, or taking time, or being taking long time, and so on. And then we went also similarly for the combinations that make sense, like long-term issues, long time being spent on something, or risk pieces in some projects. And here are some examples. For instance, if you look at the second row on the bottom of your screen, so you will see that the long term was being connected and mostly used close to words such as change or such as business. So that gives us an idea about, again, what the speakers wanted to communicate. That means if we want to have a digital transformation, we need to have long-term commitments. Our business model should be a long-term business model. The change should be a long-term change, and so on. And going further with that sentiment analysis, what we did was also going and identifying like sentences that are using those negative words very closely to each other. Here is an example. For instance, in sample 7, you will see that the speaker is talking about people who are responsible for the digital transformation in an organization, trying to communicate that and being frustrated because they are not being heard by the decision makers, for instance. Or another way of analyzing these communications or conversations is to go after the patterns, for instance, the pattern of long term. So here you see that the speaker is, again, talking about the communication between the people who are actually using innovation and digital innovation in the industry and not being able to communicate properly the benefits of them to their clients, and seeing that as a lack and as a barrier. So there are a lot of different opportunities to perform this kind of analysis. Obviously, this is only one talk, so you can attend to that talk. It's about an hour and a few minutes, so you can listen to that and enjoy that. But imagine that you want to have an analysis of all talks of a specific conference, and you want to know what was the underlying message of this specific conference, where like all forward-thinking people in the industry in Western Canada were participating at. How can we analyze that? So that might be a data collection of more than 50 hours, right? So and it is difficult to listen to all those 50 hours and then come out with a conclusion. Whereas having these kind of techniques, so you can run these kind of algorithms on top of the collected data there, and then have an extract of whatever has been spoken there. So I hope this video was helpful. If you want to learn more, just visit our website or write us a line, and we are more than happy to get in touch with you. Thank you very much.